Hey folks, Bruce McDonald here, Telemanca Review. I thought I'd do a late night podcast. I'm not sure how many of you will come in live, but that's okay. I used to post all my podcasts anyways. Radio's live, but it's a different feel than like a live YouTube podcast completely. And tonight I just want to talk a little bit. Anybody's welcome to call in if you want to call in. That's all cool. Love to hear from you. It's been a very sort of, I don't know, like weird month. I mean, August is always a difficult month psychologically. It's a very, very negative month. I don't know if you guys are aware of that. I've spoken about it a couple times on air. Haven't gone into what I would call tremendous detail, but nonetheless, I've, given you the basics, so to speak. There's something about August that is just... The other world is close, and there's... Hey guys, wow, people are here. Yeah, oi, oi, wow. Hi guys, hi Nick, hi Chris. I just wanted to pop in and have a little chat. So Thursday, I'm flying out of Costa Rica. Bob's going back to the U.S. for some medical procedures resulting from his plane crash last year after we finished The Devil and Us. By the way, look, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this to you guys, but every book I write since I've been on this mountain has casualties. Like every book. I don't want to say the book is cursed, but John Edmonds is dead, and he's dead as a result of working on the book with me, and other factors as well. Okay, Andrew Bartzis, not least of them. Bob has a plane crash every time we write a book. He lost his license now, so he doesn't fly anymore, but he had a plane crash after The Light of Darkness, and a plane crash after The Devil in Us. And then there's other people who help with the books, with research and various functions, like Corinne in Belgium. She had a couple strokes after The Devil in Us. There were other people related to The Light of Darkness that had really bad things. One person got pushed down by an entity. I think she broke her wrist or something, and there was another fellow who was helping, and he had a stroke shortly after the book. He was only in his 50s, played tennis, was in great shape. Yeah, it's just the way it is, man. I don't know what it is about these books, but they churn up the other side in such a way that, if you're not sort of ready for it, you're going to have your canoe tipped over, For me, I think the reason I write the books is because I think it's knowledge that people need explained to them and taught to them. A lot of people get it right away, But if you're reading closely... Did my headset just go out? Yeah, I think it did. If you're reading closely, you'll... looking closely, so to speak, I guess is what I'm saying. Sorry, I'm just one sec here, folks. It got disconnected. I wonder why that was. That's weird. I wonder if the battery's just going out. Oh no, it's connected. It's connected. Yeah, man. There's a lot of casualties, a lot of injuries on these books. Like they're no fooling around. I go through a tremendous amount of stuff. You see, how would I explain this? There's like, if you take just normal human consciousness, okay, like, so everybody is incarnate, they're born, they're living. There's things about being a 35-year-old human being, a male or a female, a husband or a wife, that you don't tell a 5-year-old, your child, because that person's living in the 5-year-old reality. They're not going to understand 35-year-old reality. And it's not like you're lying to the child. You're just accommodating their perspective until they grow into a more mature understanding of the world. Now, if you understand what I just said there, it really is how the whole multiverse works. Okay? Except it gets, in the example of the parents with the child, they know the child will come to consciousness. They know the child will become aware of what's in this world, what's going on in this world, everything, right? And they just wait for that day to happen, and they want it to happen because the child has to come to maturity to function in the world, to be able to work, to be able to procreate, to be able to live on this planet. You need to be aware of all the dangers here. But slowly, over the upbringing of the child, those things will be experientially instilled in the child, and the child will mature and grow up. Okay? There's a consciousness maturity as well. And for some people, you could say that maybe they're born with it, or it happens, they don't have to work at it. They have an unfoldment, maybe they did some work in a past life and developed certain... But by the way, the consciousness work you do carries forward with you every life. Everything else is sort of left by the wayside. There may be certain things you'll understand from past lives, but for the most part, everything is sort of forgotten, right? That movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once, was a complete load of horse shit. Okay? That's all the people whose consciousness is akashic or causal, meaning related to time, which is above the astral but below what we'd call a heaven. They will tell you that that's the pinnacle of consciousness, and the watershed of everything that happens causally is the causal plane. And it's true, it's not a lie. But it's not the limitation of consciousness by any stretch of the imagination. I realized some time ago that every podcast I do is different, but they're all exactly the same. I'm really talking about one thing all the time. It's really all I know how to talk about. And that one thing is the apprehension of this reality. And sometimes, depending on whatever mood I'm in, I might use scientific language, I might use religious language, I might use spiritual language. Whatever language is at my disposal, it doesn't matter what lexicon I borrow from, what vocabulary I borrow from. It's just really about interpreting this reality. That's all it's really about. Hi Manny, Chris, S90. You're welcome to call in if you want. Give me a little bit though. Let me just finish my first 30 minutes here. Another 20 minutes. Because I did have something on my mind. Anyways, getting back to the temporal stuff. So I got to leave on Thursday. And I haven't left the country since like December 2018, which was the last time I had to go for a visa. So the way I don't have my residency yet, and I don't have my citizenship, and one of the reasons I'm leaving the country now is to get everything back on track to get that done. I've made up my mind that I'm going to give up, or not give up, but I don't have to give up Canadian citizenship. We're allowed to be dual citizens in Canada. So I'm going to do that as well. I don't know if I ever told you guys about the last time I tried to leave this country. It was a Mercury retrograde, and just like everything went bad, I woke up at 4:30 in the morning with a very bad dream, basically telling me not to go, but I had no choice, so I went. Everything blew up in my hands like a hand grenade, and that's all there is to it. And it was a very, very decidedly multi-dimensional experience. I was not meant to leave the country. And then there's no great consequence for overstaying your visa, like a lot of people do here. I may get jacked at the airport for a fine. I don't know, like $500, $1,000, and if that's all it is, I'll pay it. But yeah, so I haven't left since about 2018, and at December 2018, so like 5.5 years now. And used to be you had to leave the country every 3 months. Now it's every 6 months to get your visitor's visa renewed. And you can just live here perpetually on visitor's visas. There's countless people living in Costa Rica. They're married, they own properties, they have families here, but they never get their citizenship. It's just no real need to do it. I do kind of want to do it now, though. It's just the way it is. It's my time, let's put it that way. It's my time to get my citizenship. So I'm going into San Jose with Bob on Wednesday. We're going to stay at an Airbnb, and then we're both going to the airport on Thursday. I fly out, I think, at 1:30. It's only an hour and 15 minutes to El Salvador. It's a super short flight, man. I mean, I'm very interested to see El Salvador. This is the country that Bukele cleaned up. This is the country that used to have the MS-13 gang. And this was the country with the highest death rate in the world of any country not actively at war. Either an invading force, like an African country invading your country, or civil war. Now it's as peaceful as can be. It's the most peaceful country in the Western Hemisphere now. 4 years. Bukele is an example to everybody that things can change, and that the things in the United States and Canada are the way they are because that's the way the leaders like Trudeau and Biden have made them. It's intentional. Again, like I said, when I do podcasts, I'm really talking about one thing. Okay? One thing. And it's about this ruling force on the planet and its human conscripts. And it is a cult. And make no mistake about it, this is a cult. There's no other way to describe it. It's a cult. They have rites and rituals and passages and oaths and consequence for violating oath. They have horrific rituals. They abuse people. They abuse children. They're not human. They're not human by any stretch of the imagination, and they've been living alongside us for a long time now. Why the Creator did this, put two completely different species that look the same, and from the outside you could make the mistake that they are the same thing. But from the inside, we're not even the same species. My inclination is to love everybody. And I don't mean that in a soft, sentimental, nonsensical way. It just means when I look at people, even my enemies, I want what's best for them. I want what's best for them. I don't want to see anybody suffer. I don't want to see anybody get punished. Punishment happens. You eat sugar your whole life, you're going to get diabetes. Don't ask me to feel sorry for you, unless nobody told you to stop eating so much sugar. Nobody told you about the importance of diet. Right? So there's consequences in this life, but I never like to be the administrator of consequence. I've never felt the need to do it directly. I did when I was younger. I got all the power and ego stuff out of me by the time I was like 17, 18. But, I mean, going back to like 10, 12 years old, I was a nasty kid. I was a bully. I absolutely was. Used to take things from people. Used to just bully people. Had a little gang with me in like the 6th grade. Used to do just crazy as shit, you know. Used to steal shopping carts from the grocery store and have shopping cart races on the school grounds and plow into the side of a portable. Stuff like this, you know. But I saw what real power was by the time I was 15, 16. And those of you who've read The Devil in Us, you know, I mean, I went through this phase from about 16 to 17, like, yeah, about a year and a half, 17 and a half or so, or I don't know what was eating at me, but I mean, I would just like knock people out at the drop of a hat. Fighting's not what you see in movies and TV or even UFC. UFC's pretty close. That's how a real fight goes down, but not generally people don't go to the ground. And the big thing they get wrong in the movies and in television is if you learn to hit hard and 500, 1,000 hours over a few years on a heavy bag, practicing your punch, your footwork, your weight shift. There's a whole science to punching. People think it's just throwing your fist in the air. That's not it at all. Even boxing is a martial art. There's so many ways to flick a punch, it's unbelievable. But if you do enough training and you learn to hit hard, you develop your power. Although power is largely innate, it comes from the heart. Well, you develop your power, and what happens is you get into a street fight if you connect. And generally when you do that much practice, your targeting is very good as well. Because when you start to work out on a heavy bag or a speed bag's always moving. It's the little one that you keep going rhythmically. And the heavy bag is the big one that hangs from the ceiling on a chain and it swings. And the way you train is you put little X's with duct tape, or you wrap up the whole punching bag in duct tape, and then you draw with a marker your target points. This is a left jab, this is a right cross, this is an uppercut from the left, this is an up, and you got to have the exact like 2-inch spot you're going to hit. You do that for a few years, you get really good at it. Like anything else, right? Like hitting a baseball, riding a bike, fishing, skiing. You're just going to get very, very good at it, right? So what happens is you learn to hit really hard, really quick, and really precisely. Exactly where you mean to hit the person. Could be the nose, could be anywhere, okay? And the lie in the movies and television is that you can just go out on the street and do that without any consequence. That's complete horseshit. First thing that happens when you learn to punch really hard is you break your hand or sprain it. You may not break it, but you're definitely going to sprain it. If you catch somebody square in the face, not on the jaw so that their head rolls with the punch, but square on the face, boom, which is a knockout punch, by the way, right? Because all of the pressure of your punch has nowhere to go. There's no way for them to roll it off, right? This is why you should stay relaxed when you're fighting, so that you can just roll off the energy of the punch. You want your gut to go in a bit when you get punched in the gut, You want it to sink in a little bit, so the movement of your body is dissipating some of the power of the punch. But you break your hand every time, man. Right? How the hell did I end up on this topic? I don't know. Anyways, I'm talking about one thing all the time, and it's the cult we live under. And this particular cult is in disarray now, and it's in disarray because everything is changing. Foundational energy is changing. I'm pretty convinced that their magic is just not working anymore, right? Because magic is a very precise, I think it has to be retooled for every age. So there may have been a magic that worked with the vibrational frequency of Pisces, but it's not going to work with Aquarius. Or there's just more photons coming into our space. Who can say why something works for centuries and then it doesn't work? But it's not working now. Everything is breaking down. All of their expectations are not being fulfilled. So it's chaos. That's what we've descended into now, as a kind of a chaos. It may not seem chaotic, but this is chaos. There's literally nobody minding the store. Nobody minding your municipality, nobody minding your state, and nobody minding your country. Front door and the back door are wide open. Courts aren't working unless they're persecuting people who are saying that our freedom is being taken away from us. Then the courts are working. You make a whole day of it in a backpack going to Apple stores and ripping off notebook computers and iPhones. You're not going to go to jail. If they catch you, you get bail right away. They're really not going to. There's no punishment anymore except for people who disagree with the way the society is going. Then there's heavy punishment, disproportionate punishment. Right? So the trick is, how do you survive in this world? Right? How do you survive? The ability of people to think is just completely disappearing. People cannot think anymore. And a lot of it has to do with all of the external influences. Okay, what do I mean by external influences? Well, I mean your cell phone, your computer, television, social consciousness, public opinion, enforced public opinion. A lot of people think it's a good thing that, the mainstream media is being defrocked and exposed for the liars that they are. I think it's a good thing, I guess. I'll add my voice to that group of people. But have you ever thought about what it's like for the 50% of the people who don't want to believe that the media is lying? Who would be shocked and upset to find out that their media is lying to them? And if not outright lying, because lying is a very specific thing, right? Were you here at 9 o'clock on Monday night? No, sir, I was not. You lied. You were there at 9 o'clock, but there's no camera, no witnesses, so you don't have to tell the truth. That's a lie. Media doesn't lie per se, but they're very selective in what they'll cover and what they'll call news. And defining, if you have 20 possible stories in front of you as an editor, and you're working up the afternoon edition of your newspaper, let's say the New York Times, and you only have the resources and page space for two, this AI, for two of those stories to go forward, well, then you're going to look at the 20 stories, and any one of them that doesn't go with what your political and social ambition for the newspaper is going to be cut. So if you're the New York Times and you don't want Donald Trump to be president, you cut the stories related to Trump, the ones that are positive. That's a very mild example. Or you don't give proper financial news. You just cover the Dow Jones, New York Stock Exchange. Hey, everything's great. Everybody's making money. Stocks are going up. But there's no underlying investigation. Why are stocks going up? Who's buying them? Who's got money to buy stock? Why is it all going up? They never do the real journalism. They never do the real work. And that's what I mean when I say that they lie. Yeah, so Manny says that he was listening to a witch last night and she said the old rituals are no longer working. Well, yeah, I think I just said that 10 minutes ago. For me, it's direct perception. I don't practice magic, but I can see it. I can feel it. I have heightened feeling of things, right? So So one of the things I wanted to talk about tonight is what's going on with us and what the real agenda is. And I'm going to use one of my favorite things, and that, of course, is an inversion. Okay? And you can look at inversion as a mirror of sorts. So this is also an excellent example of how the media manipulates things. Okay? So the threat of artificial intelligence, or the alleged threat of artificial intelligence, which I think is massively overblown. It's just, ChatGPT is just a web crawling plagiarism machine. That's all it is. There's no intelligence there. Okay? There's no intelligence there. It's fake intelligence. There will never be a machine that has consciousness except this organic machine. Okay? Because a machine has to be created a certain way to contain consciousness. There's a lot of cloning going on. That's been going on for decades now. That's also one of the big secrets out there. I should maybe do a few shows on cloning sometime, because you'd be amazed the degree to which it goes on. Okay, it's rampant. I think it's been around for like almost 100 years now. They started doing it in like the 1920s. And it's completely out of control now. And then as these technologies go out into the world, all of their positive utility is gone. They're all going to be put towards a military end. Cloning will be put towards a military end. They'll make disposable humans to fight wars. They'll make clones of people. I'm pretty sure they have cloning in Hollywood now. I do. Because all of those people are licensed to print money, right? All of those big movie stars, they become money-making machines. And you'd be amazed what people do when money is involved. If you can clone someone for $50,000 and they're going to make you another $500 million on 3 sequels to a stupid movie the original person didn't want to do, you can bet your bottom dollar that there's certain groups and circles in Hollywood that would consider snatching the person, killing them, and cloning them. Okay? It's not really what I had on my mind to talk about tonight. I don't know how I found my way over to cloning. Oh yeah, AI, artificial intelligence. So the goal is to get us to think like machines. So the whole emphasis on AI is not the threat of a sentient machine that can think better than us, feel better than us, reason better than us, come to better conclusions than us. And such a machine will never exist. It's impossible. Because man is not a thinking machine. Man is a divining machine. Most of our insights come from revelations, sudden insights and epiphanies. Ah, I see that now. Where does that come from? How is a computer going to do that? Is that some thinking process going on in the back of your head you're not aware of? Bullshit. It's coming from somewhere else. So the organic being, the human being, is connected to the multiverse, and we can draw information from it. We all do it, consciously or unconsciously. A machine can't do that. A machine is not connected to the multiverse because the spark inside of it is not the God spark. It's not the all-creator. And therefore, the machine is not connected to everything. It can be connected to vast databases, no doubt. Databases with an almost incalculable amount of information. And if you take the entire internet as an open database, which a lot of web crawling programs can do that now. They can go out and do all this research. And the size of that database, like the world's data, if it were added up through the World Wide Web, would be almost incalculable, immeasurable. So this is what gives the illusion of intelligence, the ability to go into vast information fields, basic algorithms for interpretation. Hey, Nick. Basic algorithms for interpretation. And that's about it. There's really only so much they can do. Right? And there's this whole AI thing is just complete horseshit. Look at all the mistakes they're getting in ChatGPT now. Look at all the nonsense, okay? And the writing is really bad. There's no personality. There's no individuality. It's really bad. I think AI has a wonderful future in new forms of education where you can create tutors for people. They can log onto their computer and have a 1 to 3 hour session with their AI tutor. You're making profound advancements in language learning now through AI. Now, actually, they create an avatar for you, and that avatar will be on your screen and speak to you. And hey, Santo, and correct your grammar as it's speaking. Right? So it's very, very interesting the way this whole thing is working now, and the way the whole thing is sort of coming together. Very fascinating the way the whole thing is coming together. I don't like the direction the world is going in, and I don't think that we should be so wed to technology. Right? It's amazing how we do things as human beings. It's either all one way and nothing the other way, or these sorts of things, right? So we live for 1,500 years in Europe under religious rule, where the priests and the cardinals decide whether you live or die. And they had power of life and death. They could get you condemned as a heretic and killed. So don't think that the life and death thing is non-existent. It's extremely existent. And it was a very dark time, I think, when the Catholic Church ran things. I don't know for sure. I don't have any past life memories of it. But there's this idea now that we've somehow been emancipated from all of these restrictive institutions and these restrictive ways of living, and we're free now. But human beings are never free. It's just the nature of this place and the nature of the forces around us all the time, and the invisible forces is such that you can't say that you're free. It would be a tremendous misrepresentation of the truth. Okay? Very few people achieve freedom. Real freedom. A freedom of consciousness from the limitations of the mind and memory and thought. To be truly free, to be a living being and know it. That's freedom. A lot of the thinking we have now is programming. A lot of the ways that we practice education now is programming. I say we're not teaching people to think. We're just putting a little data in their heads and telling them to memorize it, or creating circumstances where it stays in their memory, but there's no thinking process there. There's no real creativity and there's no real thought. It's just, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. And the people we put up on a pedestal, I mean, I don't want to shit on them, because I like the world and the technology that's come out. I'm fairly happy with the computer revolution. It works. I've made my whole living on computers as a technical writer. Made my whole living at it for 30 years now. So I can't really speak ill about computers. I mean, they've given me a living. But it's a traditional and a modern living mixed together. So the traditional trade is communication and writing. And the modern application is computers. So there's no real thought going on now. And I've noticed this, how stupid people are getting. And I don't mean to say that in a derogatory way, and maybe that's not the right language. Maybe stupid is too caustic a word, too judgmental. Okay? Let me rephrase. People are not being taught how to think. They're not being given the courage to perceive for themselves. We're getting worse instead of better. And all the while they tell us, oh, it's never been better on this planet. The medicine and the suffering, and never been better. I don't know what they're talking about. What do you mean it's never been better? Who the hell would say something so asinine? Right? Because we have technology. Modern medicine kills as many people as it helps. Right? It's another very interesting thing is that it seems to me that every advancement we make medically, like let's say antibiotics, there's a hook in it. Like it works for a while and then it'll stop working. Okay? Vaccines. Oh, well, we cured polio. We just had to introduce all this garbage into the human system to do it. Right? The whole vaccine game is just complete nonsense. It's the beginning of the cull of the human race. Right? Now maybe this stuff needs to go on. You ever asked yourself if that's the reality? You can't avoid any questions if you're going to be a truth seeker. You can't say that this question can't be asked because it's offensive. You have to ask the question. And the question here is there a group of people, or is it the responsibility to find such people in every generation who can make the hard decisions to depopulate the human race so we stay whole? Meaning that the race goes forward. If not every individual within the race is the species goes forward, the human being. Is that something that needs to be done? I mean, there is nothing that regulates us. Nature can regulate us somewhat. Disease, natural disasters, calamity, things like this. Nature can do all that. But nature's, never going to say, look, there's too many people on the planet, I'm going to start randomly killing people. If nature had any mind to do that, nature would have done that already in China and India. Because they are the two most densely populated places you're ever going to set foot. India even more so. Just because it's got a population pretty much on par with China, with about a fifth of the geography. You've never seen crowding the way India is crowded. I don't think I was ever, in all the time, the month I was in India, I don't think I was ever anywhere in India where I could not see another human being. Okay? Here where I live now, I can walk for 5 minutes up the road and then I can keep walking for another 10 kilometers into the jungle. And I won't see any other people. I might, if some of the natives are out walking, but generally no. I won't see any other people. Canada, man, you drive a little bit north of the big cities down by the US border, you don't see any people. very barren. You drive north in Canada, I mean, if you drive at night, you could hit a stretch of highway where, man, you might, I don't know, in terms of a car in front of you or behind you, you could drive for 4 hours and not see another car in your lane. You may have cars occasionally pass you, coming the other direction, but India, no. There's nowhere to have any kind of privacy in India. I don't even know how they make babies over there, to be honest with you. It's so dense, so jammed together, so unbelievably jammed together, it's unbelievable. So if nature was in the business of depopulating regions and civilizations, it would have done it by now. So we can assume nature's not in that business. Well, what happens when there's too many people on the planet? Is there such a thing as too many people on the planet? I don't know. A lot of people think yes. And a lot of people who you might not think. I'll tell you who thinks there's too many people on the planet. The extraterrestrials. Both the positive and the negative extraterrestrials. They will both say that the Earth is overcrowded. The Palladians, Billy Myers' so-called people, who claim to be tutors of the human race, or at least certain races amongst the human race. In this case, the brown, the white, and the red, the Indian, the European, and the Middle Easterner, the Arabic, are the three races the Palladians claim as their own, as genetic experiments on this planet. I bet you didn't know that, did you? There's a lot of stuff in the Palladian material, and a lot of it is quite compelling. Hey, Joshua. The Palladians are adamant that the population of the planet shouldn't exceed 500 million human beings. That's the same as the Georgia Guidestones. Do we need to be depopulated? I don't know. Like I said about 35, 40 minutes ago at the beginning of this podcast, I don't have it in me to do that. I couldn't assign that consequence to people. I couldn't say, okay, it's time for you to die now. Right? I couldn't do it. It's just not in me to do that. Right? Hey, Joshua. Buenas noches. Buenas noches. So I think the computers and the artificial intelligence is more about changing human thought than it is teaching a machine to think. Like I said, a machine cannot be taught to think. Thinking is not what you think it is. It's not what you think it is. It's something else entirely. Okay? Human beings are like radio receivers. Things come to us. And that's not to say that certain sequential ways of thinking and investigating, like the scientific process, stepping through things in a very sequential and logical way, disqualifying all things that don't build your thesis through experimentation, these are all valid and somewhat worthy pursuits. No doubt about it. But they're not an end to the human situation. They're not an end in and of themselves. They're nowhere near an end in and of themselves. Nowhere near. I don't think I've ever had what I would call, I don't know that I've ever thought about anything in my life. Things happen inside me. I see pictures. I see things. I get insights. I don't know where they come from. If you think you've got it figured out, call in and tell me. I've been meditating for 40 years. I can tell you I don't know a thing about consciousness, other than it's self-existing, self-propagating, and self-reliant. It answers its own questions. Okay? So I don't know what's going on. Yeah, so I gotta leave on Thursday. I'm a bit nervous, It's been a while. They could jam me up at the airport. I don't think they will, but they could, take me in for an interview. But, I mean, I'm married and everything, right? Travel with my marriage license and say I got married and, COVID happened and I couldn't leave for a few years. And then once I was 4 years over, well, let's make it 5. Once it's 5, make it 5.5. Now I'm leaving the country. What do you want from me? I mean, they were, no, consciousness is not synonymous with self-awareness. No. Consciousness just is. It just is, Joshua. There is no other qualifier. You can't objectify consciousness because everything is consciousness. It's one big field of consciousness. Electricity is a form of consciousness. Awareness is what we're cultivating. Awareness, to be able to fit into things, to be able to understand things. So much has to change now for this world to get better, and it's all doable. Like I said, Bukele cleaned up El Salvador in like 2.5, 3 years. Most dangerous country in the Western Hemisphere, literally run by gangs who were collecting taxes just like a government. All shut down. It can be done. Why aren't we doing it in Canada and the United States? Why are we letting looters go into department stores or go into Apple stores and loot hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment while simultaneously adding 87,000 people to the IRS to badger and harass middle-class, hard-working American people? Right? It just couldn't be any worse than it is now. I shouldn't say that. It can always get worse. I don't want to tempt fate. Am I going to visit Bitcoin Beach? I don't know. I might. Possibly. Bitcoin Beach. That's another thing that Bukele did, is that he brought Bitcoin in as a currency. He's a very clever guy. Very, very, very clever guy. I don't know how to explain it. He's just like a super smart guy. Right guy for the right time. All right. Somebody wants to call in now, you can call in. You can call me on Skype, or you can call me on the number there. Have a late night chat. Yeah, these podcasts, they're sometimes like a diary entry for me. I just want to get something down for the day and say, well, this is what I was thinking about that day. Right? 2024 is, what happens between now and November? Who knows? What's going to happen? There's so many things that could bring this thing to a head. About that day. You got to turn off your radio, Chris.
Hello.
Hey, man.
Sound a little muffled.
I do?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, you do. It's not my ears. My ears sound fine.
Huh. I wonder what's going on with this microphone now.
It's like you're missing all your treble.
Missing all my treble, you say? So, somebody else said the same thing earlier today. Hang on a sec. Is that any better?
Oh, I can hear you. Same thing.
Huh. Well, I cannot, for the life of me, figure out what this is.
Does your headset, is that where the mic is now?
No.
Oh, no, it's right in front of you.
How's that?
Ew,
How's that?
I'll be able to understand what you say.
Okay.
You sound
How's
very
that?
odd.
How's that? Okay, I
Yeah, I
don't
think
know.
I know what's happening. With what you're talking about tonight,
Okay.
and it's it's kind of funny that all these kind of the people that I know around me, like you and the doc and a few others, we're all at that point in our life to where we're seeing the truth, and you got one guy working on it, trying to find out if they really did pull the trigger or not, which we believe they did. And then, we talk about those old rumors around the Georgia Guidestones of 500,000 and how that connection to the Palladians had some kind of involvement.
Yeah. Yeah.
And remember when it was blowing up, right? There was a video of that, right, from the security camera. And I swear to God, what I saw was a RPG
Uh-huh.
hitting it, right?
Who? Okay.
They said
What?
it was. Somebody said he blew it up from the bottom. I don't know, but I thought I saw in the video, this little flash right before it blew up, and it was like
You've lost me, Chris. What are we talking about here?
when they destroyed when Biden became president, and they destroyed the Georgia Guidestones.
Okay. Are you saying that Biden did that?
Well, not necessarily.
It's
him, but
unknown.
the people,
It's unknown who did it.
right, but nothing's unknown. Somebody knows who did it, and I think it's still part of the same kind of controllers that are trying to still direct our global population in direction where it means that there will be less of us in the future. And they're like the doc said, they're coming at us from different fronts. They come at us from the war front. They come at us from the drug addiction front. They come at us from the wonderful things they make in China, right?
Yeah.
It's just and when you say you don't know about, I ask the same question: does the world need less people? I would say it probably does need less people, but it needs better people that take more care in their children's education and teach these children different things. Because what we're really being taught these days to our children is not necessarily any type of spiritual enlightenment to their lives. Their lives are just taken over by these devices.
Yeah.
And then they become part of the system. It's like falling into the Borg. Is what I and you and I have an advantage because we lived in a world that was pre-internet.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
It makes a big difference, actually.
I think of the day when the last man on Earth that ever remembered pre-internet will die. That'll probably be some kind of great World Economic Forum celebration.
Yeah. Yeah, those world shapers are on their way out. Klaus Schwab. And fuck that
they're
piece of
locking
shit.
people up for social media posts over here now, right?
I was aware of that. How heavy is it? Like, does everybody know somebody who's been arrested?
It's on the news all the time, and it's they're pushing it out with politics, are pushing it out, and they're really doing it. And see, the justice here is swift. You can be charged, taken to the station, be found guilty, and go to prison on the same day.
Yeah.
It just boom, right?
Yeah.
With the surveillance and all the other technology they have on us over here.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, England used to be the number one surveilled country in the world for a long, long, long time.
Yeah.
I think China's probably overtook us now. or the United States of America, which they are surveilling the
Yeah.
populace every day,
I remember,
every hour, every day. What they're watching you.
yeah, I remember early on in the surveillance narrative, England was always at the top of the list. I think London was the first city to have CCTV everywhere,
Yeah, yeah,
right? So,
yeah, yeah, and it made it made it easy for the cop to sit there in front of 20 TV screens than it was to walk around the block a couple times, right? So it became a new way of policing by surveillance policing instead of on the beat policing. Um, there's really not that many cops here. I mean, when they have in the big cities, they have a lot of cops, but down here in this town, they don't really have a lot. Maybe 30
hmm
for this entire area. But within an hour, you could have 300 cops here, right, from all the cities around us.
yeah,
So
yeah,
England's a little different than America. Like big cities in America, it takes me 3 hours to drive across Houston, right, from one side to the other. Whereas here, in 3 hours time, I can be in London, I can be in Nottingham, I can be in Ireland or France, right?
in 3 hours.
Um, it's different, it's a different type of culture in that sense, in the geographical, or what do they call it, geography. Limitations to society. You can
hmm
only spread yourself so thin, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And once you spread so thin, then you can easily be kind of overwhelmed with whatever kind of. And that's the thing with education. That's the thing with this computers today. That really, I was talking to a girl today about it. Her mom. That when we were kids, we had to remember numbers. We had to
yeah.
remember the quadratic formula. We had to remember all kinds of shit in
hmm
school.
hmm
But nowadays, kids use the computers as their encyclopedias.
Yeah.
They use the calculating on the on these tablets and phones that they can
So,
really cheat on their math pretty easy. So that part of their brain is not being used.
yeah,
But then the mass media comes through and advertising comes through and fills it with this garbage, right? Which turns
yeah,
them into what they're turning into.
yeah, yeah.
But
Well, it's
Bruce,
interesting.
them people ain't like us, Bruce.
Yeah. Well, what I've noticed is that um, I find my son to be one of the more balanced people I can speak to at 27, and I think that the reason is that he works physically in construction. And so he's out
Yeah,
all day being physical, actually doing a day's work, and um, not sitting around listening, and most importantly, not being conditioned to think a certain way by an office culture. There's no DEI. There's no
yeah,
diversity, equity, and inclusion in the construction trades. There's no angry lesbians boycotting the labor unions. Okay, because they don't want to do the work, because they don't want to work. Affirmative action is all about getting the $85,000, $90,000 a year civil service job you can never be fired from, and you don't have to do anything. That's what it's about. You just,
yeah,
that's
yeah. It's crazy, man.
yeah.
We're gonna, no,
I in my career, I worked for myself as an independent contractor for most of my life, and as
yeah,
such, I found myself both in a wide range of companies that required my services. So small startups, medium-sized startups,
yeah,
transnational corporations like General Electric and Siemens, financial like banks and stuff like that, and then um, government. I did some government contracts as well, and I'm telling you, man, I mean, government is unbelievably stupid. Like it's the
yeah,
most inefficient entity out there. There was a classic example in Canada, and this has got to be one of the greatest coups ever. So, at the height of COVID, Canada, the government of Canada commissioned an application to be bought for people's to be made for people's cell phones. It was called Arrive Can, and Can is short for Canada, right? Arrive Canada, and you had to have it
Right.
on your phone during COVID to get in. And the Liberal Party presented a budget of an expense report of $63 million Canadian, which is about 50 million US, to build this app. And the opposition party commissioned, and it was always going down. It was always full of bugs. And the opposition party commissioned 2 software developers working out of their home, and they built a better application in 1 weekend. 1 weekend,
Right.
and they said if they were going to sell it, they would have sold it for $80,000, which, you know, that's $40,000 a day for 2 guys. It's $20,000 a day for each guy for 2 days. $80,000. That's even excessive, right? But how do you?
Yeah.
Now that you know it can be done for 80,000, and I think the 80,000 price included the hardware too, so it wasn't all just labor and coding. It was the actual physical servers and the infrastructure to run the whole thing. $80,000, and the Liberal government, it cost them $63 million to do the same thing, and the ultimate window, and that's what everybody's fighting over. They're fighting over these jobs. It's like all the black
The
lady.
job itself becomes a commodity, right?
Yeah, you saw how quickly that affirmative action shit went away when these black women chancellors of Ivy League universities sided with the pro-Palestinian support. They were gone. Gone. Those Jews got rid of them right away. Very efficient, those Jews. Right? I dare say, Chris, they're as efficient as Nazis. Right?
Yeah, you know, the American universities have been taken over for decades, right? When was it? In the 50s is when they started to infiltrate the universities in America. It's the American Socialist Party, and then a bunch of other ones. I know that they pretty much are still in control today. The people that have been in control 50, 60, 100 years ago are probably still in control today. And you know, like, look where all the massive fortune is right now. It's what, 99% of the world's wealth is wrapped up in 3% of of its population or something, or 1% of its population.
Yeah.
So the discrepancy, I don't know how that can hold on that long.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people will be, they'll either get pissed off, hit the streets, there'll be a civil uprising, whatever happens,
Mm-hmm.
or they'll just go along for the ride and end up in their little kill box,
Yeah.
you know, with their little Amazon delivery each week. And
Yeah,
you'll have
absolutely.
your universal basic income. You don't have to work.
UBI.
You can go play around in the metaverse with old Zuckerberg for a while, and then you can go zoom over to you know, the new Starlink network that they'll have, where you could travel.
Well, there you
Psychic
go.
travel, but using a crazy supercomputer.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna wind it up for tonight. I like to keep these things around an
All right,
hour.
man.
We're at an
All
hour
right,
3
good
now. But
talking to
thanks. Yeah, thanks for calling in, Chris. I'll
Yeah, all these other
Appreciate
guys. I don't know what's wrong with y'all. Y'all can call in. It's like you're part of our family. At least come in and introduce yourself to us. You know, tell us who you are.
call in, man.
All right.
All right, I'm gonna sign off,
I'll see
Chris.
you later, man.
Bye bye. Chris, ladies and gentlemen, Chris France from the UK. So yeah, that's what we'll call a podcast for tonight. And I'm Bruce McDonald, and this has been the Talamanca Review.